So for a type of annuity is called a fixed index annuity. The fixed index annuity has been around for just about 20 years. And they're now becoming more popular than ever to baby boomers because baby boomers and retirees are both looking for principal protection and growth. Give me 3, 4, 5% and don't hurt me. Here's how it works. Number one, the money's with the guaranteed insurance contract. It's dollar for dollar in reserves. It's not in the market. That means it can't go down. It's backed by reinsurers. Many companies have reinsurers. Some companies do, some companies don't. They have what we call surplus capital. You remember that vital signs we just talked about? You have $1.08 for every dollar they have in reserves. Well, the insurance company that's highly rated is going to generate an interest rate. And that interest rate could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4%. But instead of just giving you a 2 or 3 or 4% interest, what they do is they take that interest and they place that interest into a major index like the S&P 500. And by doing that, what it allows for you to do is when the market goes up, you participate in the gains. When the market goes down, you can't lose. Great concept, right? But when the market goes up again, you get the gains. When the market goes down, you can't lose. So for people looking for index-link-like gains without having downside of the market, this could be a great vehicle. Now, there are some negatives too. Typically, you don't get all the gains. There are some restrictions. Many times, they have market upside without the downside. And one of the ways that we help evaluate management techniques on these guaranteed insurance contracts to get more money in your pocket is there's typically 3 ways that a company can limit your interest that you make. Number one, some contracts have what we call a cap. Cap, think of keyword ceiling. Now, some contracts have a low cap and some contracts have a high cap. But let's say you had a 5% cap. What that means to you is if the S&P 500 shoots up 20%, you get 5% credited to you. However, not all companies have a cap. I personally like the ones that are uncapped. And uncapped simply means that if the market goes up, there's no cap, but there may be another way the guaranteed insurance contract or the insurance company can limit your gains. And that way they can limit your gains is they can have what we call a participation rate, a percentage rate. You only get a percentage of the gains of that major index, like the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or whatever index that the insurance company gives you to choose from every term. And sometimes you only get 50% of the gains. Think of it this way. The S&P 500 goes up 10%, you get 5. If the S&P 500 goes up 20%, you get 50% of that, so that'd be 10. I like the ones that are uncapped and give 100% participation rate. Not all of them do that. And questions you should ask is after the term of 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever that term is, what can they change the terms to? Can they reduce the cap? Now, that's number 3. Number 3, there could be a margin. I use the word keyword margin because technically it's not a fee. The margin could be 1%, it could be 2%, it could be higher. Okay, what that means to you is, let's say the margin is 2%. If the S&P 500 goes up by 10% for the year and your margin's 2, you would get 8 for that year. However, if the S&P 500 had a correction and went down, they can't charge a margin. They can't charge because it's not a fee. Now, if it was a fee, they can charge it. And this is so important for people that are looking for market upside without the downside. But there's things that you want to look for before you just look at it, because some of these companies do give great benefits such as a bonus. And a bonus simply means if you put in $100,000, we will give you a 5% bonus. What that means is they'll give $5,000 to your guaranteed insurance contract. But there's a cost. The cost means the surrender term or the term of the contract could be longer. And if you cash it in too soon, there would be a penalty. Typically, you have access to 10% out per year without a penalty. Some companies have a 20% bonus. And if you have a 20% bonus, you got to be careful because a lot of times what happens is they give you a great rate the first year, but then afterwards it's low because they dropped the terms, or they increased the margin, or they dropped the cap. And that's where you don't want to be penny wise but dollar foolish. You want to look at the total value. And that's where a lot of people that call into us, we are able to show what is the minimum they can drop the cap down to, what is the maximum they can raise the margin to. Does it make sense for you to take a high bonus or no bonus at all? And it depends on your particular situation. It depends on the top highly rated company. And it's the terms of the contract. And that's the value you get when you look at these fixed annuity strategies that we look at. The disadvantages. Your money is going to have a term anywhere from 0 years, I've seen, to 15 years. Sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little bit lower. Now, if you go 0 years, you're typically, or 1 year or 3 years, your typical caps are going to be very low. Your participation rates are going to be really low. If you go longer term, you're going to do better. What I found is the sweet spot is typically between year 7 and year 14 is the best terms. And if you find good contracts, now you still have access to money, you can still take 10% per year, but if you take more than that, there's a penalty in play. And the interest can be capped or marginalized, or participation, depending on the terms of the contract that you choose. Now, here is an example of a 5% cap over the last 15 years, from 99 to 2014. And the reason I give this example for you is because we know the market's done very well, but we also know the markets have not done so well too. And for those of you that are allergic to risk, you might say, I'm okay committing to time for a portion of my money and having access to a portion of my money, and help me get 3, 4, 5% and don't hurt me. But one way to do that, you might want to consider the uncapped strategy and terms that are going to have good renewals. And sometimes good renewals doesn't mean the biggest bonus out there today. Because if they give you a big bonus, there's only so many pennies in a dollar. You want to make sure that if it's uncapped, they keep your 100% participation and they keep your margin low for the future renewals.